Ladies and gentlemen, this next segment of the podcast is brought to you by the Heritage Foundation. For over 50 years, the Great Heritage Foundation has been America's outpost in Washington, fighting against the D.C. federal bureaucracy and working to secure a future that allows Americans to live the good life. For too long, common sense principles have been ignored by many of the very leaders claiming to fight for America. But the Heritage Foundation is proud to hold our leaders accountable and stand up for America's founding principles. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You know, audience, this is going to be funny. Okay, reporters, turn on your recording devices. See, the way it works here is whatever I say, they're going to try and create a fight between President Trump and me. Problem is, President Trump and I already know this. The fact is, ladies and gentlemen, that whether it's 2 hours from now, 2 days from now, or 2 weeks from now, Iran's not going to go away on its own. The Israelis are going to put it away by itself, if they can, with that Fordo nuclear site. They'll put it away with our assistance. At some point, I suppose. Or it's not going to go away. It's not going to go away. That's the truth. You've got a combination of radical Democrats and fifth-columnists, isolationists in this country, who actually have no, and I repeat, no idea how to deal with this, except dig a hole and put your head in it and hope for the best. If you don't take military action against Iran, then Iran exists. If you don't take military action against Iran, then they will increase their ballistic missile inventory to the tens of thousands. If you don't take military action against Tehran, they're going to have intercontinental ballistic missiles. If you don't take military action against Iran, they're going to have nuclear warheads. Combine that with their public statements, and you have a death threat against the American civilization and, of course, Israel. Now, there's one lowlife out there who says Benjamin Netanyahu is the problem, that he's playing us. And so I guess that means he's playing Donald Trump. Donald Trump's not going to be played by anybody, and neither is Benjamin Netanyahu. It's about time these people with a low IQ and a small vocabulary try and grow up and act like adults. But they won't. They're stuck. They've got their platforms, and that's the way it is. Moreover, it is amazing to me that on an issue that is so clear between good and evil, that they're having a problem with their own morality. One of them is so busy walking a fine line that everybody's lost respect for him. Another one has effectively thrown in with the enemy, rarely ever condemning the Islamo-Nazi who runs Iran. And despite the polls that are out, whether it's CNN, whether it is the Reagan Institute, all these major polls, although one site went to an online poll and tried to use that to support their position, it just shows you they have nothing substantive, nothing, no strategy, zero. And for them, everything is Afghanistan and Iraq. They're ignoramuses. Everything is not Afghanistan and Iraq. Everything is not nation building. This is called self-defense. Peace. Self-defense. Iran struck Israel through its proxies. Iran has killed hundreds of Americans and maimed thousands. They have blood, American blood, on their hands. Apparently this doesn't move the fifth-column isolationists. Apparently the Democrats are okay with this. In fact, they use their deaths to say, what do we want, more deaths? As the very perpetrator of those deaths has been building nuclear weapons. And they denied they were building nuclear weapons. And now Radcliffe, the head of the CIA, says they're on the 1 yard line. It takes almost nothing for them to get a touchdown. So we're supposed to disbelieve Radcliffe, disbelieve the IAEA, disbelieve the Austrians, disbelieve everybody, but believe them. These are dangerous know-nothings. Whether it's 2 weeks, next week, Saturday, Sunday, next Wednesday, this problem doesn't go away. So we'll negotiate another 2 weeks. With whom, I don't know. The supreme Islamo-Nazi, according to the press, we have all these quotes, has told us to screw off. He's not interested. So I guess somebody else is going to negotiate. I don't know who. I don't know who they represent. Could be interesting. I don't know what kind of deal can be made. Unconditional surrender. What's to negotiate? It's a 3-word surrender, Mr. Producer. We surrender unconditionally. Do you have to do a whole set of negotiations for that? Does that take 2 weeks? Does that take 2 minutes? I'm only basing my comments on what I'm reading in the newspaper and online and what people are saying who are supposed to be in the know. Meanwhile, during this 2-week period, ballistic missiles will continue to rain down on the Israeli people. Yesterday, last evening actually, they aimed one of those missiles at a hospital. They said, oh, sorry, we were aiming it at an intelligence facility. No, they weren't. They aimed it at a hospital. And they hit it. A direct hit. This is a hospital, one of the biggest in southern Israel, that serves Muslims, Christians, Jews, Bedouins and Arabs, Druze, anybody who comes through the door. Anybody. And they hit it. By the grace of God, the part of the hospital that was hit, by the grace of God, the part of the hospital that was hit, there was nobody there because they had moved the people out because they were doing work. That's God's will. What about the fact that Israel and the United States, this is known, I'm not breaking any rules, are running out of interceptor missiles? How much longer can that go on? How much longer can even a 90% or an 80% accuracy rate with a 10 to 20% inaccuracy rate go on? I noticed that the Democrats and the fifth-column isolationists rarely ever talk about the suffering of the Israeli people. Nor do they condemn the supreme Islamist Nazi as much as they condemn Benjamin Netanyahu. It's shocking what's going on. Shocking. And the level of Jew hatred and anti-Semitism promoted by websites that continue to give voice to these individuals who represent a tiny percentage of the people, whether it's Mediaite, the Drudge Report, or some of the others, is grotesque. The people who go on comment on that Mediaite platform, and they own the platform, sound like Klansmen and neo-Nazis. Just a disgrace what Dan Abrams has created over there. A disgrace. And then when they write articles, they dip into the comments section and they try to pick comments that they feel will create the story that they're manufacturing. And you wonder why people hate the press. The fact is that you and I stand with 84% of the Republicans. You and I stand with 80% of the American people. Real surveys, real polls, not YouGov, that's used by one of these websites to defend the indefensible. Tell me where to go to find, and I'll put a link up. Tell me where to go to find the isolationist fifth column Democrat Party resolution to the Iran problem. You can't find it. And not only that, they don't think it's a problem. That's why the American people reject them. Whether it's MAGA, the Tea Party, the Reagan Revolution, all of us. The American people reject this. So 2 weeks. Maybe we'll have the greatest deal in the history of humankind. But when 2 weeks are up, if we don't, will the fifth column isolationists, will the Chatsworth Catarlsons and his ilk, will they still oppose taking action? And what makes the next 2 weeks so magical? What about the last 3 months? The fact is the Iranian regime is on its back. It's hanging by its fingernails. It's about to be eliminated. And so successful have the Israelis been, and let's not play games. The United States has provided some defensive support. But those are Israelis going into Iran, attacking these locations. That was Israeli intelligence, taking out the highest levels of their military, taking out the top senior nuclear scientists. They're the ones who are prepared to take out Khomeini. They're the ones going after the nuclear sites. They have no compunction about it all because they know that this is a battle between 7th century primitive barbarians, that regime, and the free world and modernity, and whether we survive or they survive. They understand the mindset of the Islamists, and Zuhdi Jasser will be back next hour to explain it yet again. So 2 weeks? Okay, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And then can we assume the rubber hits the road? Or will the same reprobates, fifth column isolationists, gearing up for a fight, lobbying and pressuring and all the rest, will they be back at it? Yes, they will. Because these people are ideologues. They're numbskulls. They're dangerous. That's what they are. And worse, in some cases. It's Netanyahu's fault. Gee, we haven't heard that before. It's the Israelis. It's their fault. Oh, okay. It's the American warmongers and neocons. It's never the terrorists. Have you noticed? It's never the Iranian regime. Just like Putin. It's never Putin. It's Zelensky. Not Putin. Zelensky. The communist Chinese are watching this. The Russians are watching this. The North Koreans are watching this. They're watching it. And so far, they're seeing the Israelis kicking the ass of the Iranian military. It's defeated the Iranian military. It defeated it in 48 hours. That's what it did. It defeated it. Now it's an issue of taking out all these nuclear sites. And they're asking, I assume, I don't know firsthand, help on this Fordo or whatever it's called site. They'll do whatever they can on their own. They don't have the bunker buster and the bomber in order to deliver it. Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, is that not the least we can do? Is that not the least we can do? They've been carrying the load here. They've carried the load with Hamas and Hezbollah. They're carrying the load with Iran. Of course we're providing them with weapons, although they were denied in the last administration. Why wouldn't we? But it's their flesh and blood on the line. Well, it's not our problem. How stupid. Over and over again, intercontinental ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads. Do these people really? You know who they sound like? They sound like the primitive barbarians that run Iran. They're slow learners. Worst of all, they're ideologues. More when I come back.
Mark Levin.
President Trump is in Washington with a mandate from the American people to solve the border crisis, reverse the effects of Bidenflation, and restore American greatness. But since January 20, judges across our country have consistently been blocking President Trump's attempts to fulfill his mandate. The Heritage Foundation has been analyzing the situation, and they've been able to identify the legal issues with these judges' actions, as well as the solutions that can end this potential crisis. Now, to see the results of the Heritage's analysis for yourself, go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. There you'll gain exclusive access to the Heritage Foundation's guide to solving the problem of limiting President Trump's executive actions. Stopping these judges might be the only way to protect Americans and take back our nation. So go to heritage.org/Levin, that's heritage.org/Levin, and get your free copy today. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Guy Benson writes a great post. He says, what is all this talk about a forever war? This would be very much aligned with the president's first-term approach, that is, hitting this nuclear site. He wasn't bashful about using American military might to achieve discrete and important objectives without getting bogged down or spiraling into wider wars. Think about the Soleimani hit, the Syria strikes, and bombing the blank out of ISIS and crushing their caliphate. These were all in America's interest. They accomplished key goals. They also sent crucial resonating messages. And despite some critics' warnings back then, they did not beget mission creep. Right, Katarlson? No invasions, no nation building, no foreverness. POTUS decided, acted, succeeded, and was done with it. Same proposition here, arguably with an even greater upside, with very low risk to our people thanks to our Israeli allies' incredible intel and military feats thus far. In short, limited sorties to obliterate Fordow would be fully consistent with his long-standing philosophy on war and the use of force. And Guy Benson is 100% correct. All these shibboleths, all these slogans, all this crap that's being thrown at you has nothing to do with what's taking place or needs to take place. More when I return. Are you concerned about the rising number of judges who've been limiting President Trump's executive orders? Now, if you're not concerned yet, you should be. When these judges use injunctions to block President Trump's attempts to fulfill his mandate from the American people, it is we, the people, who lose out. Thankfully, the Heritage Foundation has the policy solutions to stop these threats to our judicial system. So go to heritage.org and get your free copy of the How to Stop Activist Judges ebook. This resource explains exactly what these judges are doing, why it matters, and how under the Constitution they can be stopped. President Trump's agenda is in danger, but even more importantly, the safety of Americans and the future of our nation could be at stake. So please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Get your free ebook today. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Defending the red, white, and blue. Join Mark Levin at 877-381-3811.
Let me show you another thing. People sitting on the edge of their chair, hoping that they can write or say that there's this division, there's this friction between President Trump and me. Look, he's the president. I don't even understand this debate friction. I have my opinion. I give the president my opinion. There's no friction. I worked for Ronald Reagan for 8 years. I remember when he was going to sign this amnesty deal. And by the way, in exchange for it, the Democrats, led by George Mitchell in the Senate, were supposed to secure the border, but they lied like they always do. And I was chief of staff to the Attorney General, and I vehemently opposed it. It's a big issue. And I lost. Did I turn on Reagan? Did I quit? Did I attack my boss? No. This is what the fifth column isolationists do. They turn on the president. They try to usurp him. They try and substitute their views for his. I don't do that. I don't run campaigns. I don't lead a movement. I give my opinion. You know, I said to him the other week, Mr. President, they're saying that I'm leading a group of people to lobby you. He said, who's saying that? I said, they're just saying it out there. He said, you know when I want to know your opinion, Mark? I either call you, invite you here, or I watch your TV shows. Exactly. But none of this is nefarious. It's all quite transparent. Nobody's going to come between Donald Trump and me. He says it, I say it. We say it to each other. We know what's going on. We know how corrupt the media are. We also know how these other people are. We talk about it, or have. So this isn't about that. This isn't about what Mediaite and the Drudge Report, what Politico, Axios, and all the other reprobates say, as they try and get clicks. And in the case of Mediaite, the more neo-Nazis and Klansmen who go into their comments section, the happier they are, which is why they use these hysterically outrageous headlines when they write about me, because they want to attract the very lowest of the lowlives. And many of them also support the fifth column isolationists. So they're very friendly toward the fifth column isolationists. But the American people know nothing about them. They know nothing about these fifth column isolationists. And you and I stand with them, and they are us. They are us, we are them. That's us, the vast majority. While the others are clawing and burping and trying to get attention, twisting themselves into pretzels, we've heard this crap before. The attacks on Netanyahu and the Jews in Israel. We've heard these attacks before. The forever wars, and do you want to go to war, and so forth and so on. Guy Benson just made the point. We've made it here, but he made it exceptionally well. It's not what we're talking about. It's not what anybody's talking about. Nobody. Except them. As you can see, there's not a regional war. As you can see, there's not World War III. So there's no issue with President Trump and me. I have complete faith in him. 2 weeks is 2 weeks. 2 weeks is 2 weeks. I just think these self-righteous, narcissistic reprobates. My God, I really want to mention them all, Mr. Producer, but I should bite my tongue for now, shouldn't I? Mr. Producer says, yes, please. Sanctimonious buffoons. It's bad enough when people are sanctimonious. It's worse when they're buffoons and they're sanctimonious. You can't walk a tightrope on this. You're either for civilization or you're for primitive barbarians. You're either for civil society or you're for terrorism. You're either for the enemy having nuclear warheads on intercontinental ballistic missiles aimed at our country in a year or two, or you're not. You're either a Jew hater, anti-Semite, or you are. Or you are not. Right? And we know who they are. And they're proud of it. It's okay. Caroline Levitt at the White House today, she was asked a question by Eli Lake, who is with the Free Press. And he asked a question that I'm curious about myself. Take a listen to this. Volume up, cut one, go.
A few weeks ago, Tucker Carlson reported on a meeting between the president, Mark Levin, and others at the White House. Is there a leak investigation? And can you say who else was in that meeting?
I'm not aware of a leak investigation at this time. I, for one, do not reveal details about the president's private meetings without his permission to do so. But certainly the president does not like when people leak. He takes that very seriously. This entire administration takes that seriously. And that's why you've seen at agencies, some of the cabinet secretaries have been given the authority by the president to let go of staff who are engaged in such leaks, especially those that risk American national security.
And I'm not going to reveal anything about who was in that meeting, but I know who was in that meeting. And I know who leaked, directly or indirectly. Despite getting a call telling me they didn't leak. A leak can be that you go back to your office and you inform people about what was said, and maybe you don't intend it to be leaked. But loose lips, baby. I don't know how many more times you got to hear sink ships, and they're all over the place. And it's the embeds. It's the isolationist embeds. It's the cokeheads or the Soros Marxists who have secreted themselves into this department or that department. They know who they are. Now, who would leak? Who would leak? To Chatsworth Catarleson. You know, this investigation wouldn't take very long, would it? No, it wouldn't take very long at all. Maybe Chatsworth will just cough it up. Maybe he'll just tell us. Maybe the guy at Axios, this guy Ravid, maybe he'll just tell us. Why are these leaks always in one direction? Whenever the president makes a decision or they are concerned he's going to make a decision that's on behalf of national security, our national security, in come the leaks. Oh, my God. Trump and Netanyahu are at loggerheads. Netanyahu says that's not true. Trump says it's not true. Trump even puts out a social media site hit. So who is it? Who is it that hates Israel? It's the fifth column isolationists. Oh, no, Mark, you don't understand. They like Israel. They're just against war. Okay. So Israel's great. They just can't defend themselves. These people are stupid. Stupid. And the American people know it. 80% of the American people stand with you and me. 84% of the Republicans stand with you and me. That means almost nobody stands with the reprobates. Despite them being promoted by Mediaite and Dan Abrams and Colby Hall, gutless wonder that he is, and Charlie Nash. Boy, he's quite an investigative reporter. He writes a piece, then he goes in, he looks at who's making comments. Oh, look at this. The conservatives are upset. 5 morons, one of whom works for Matt Gaetz. Is there a bigger sleazeball than Matt Gaetz? Yeah, there is, actually. There's a lot of them. But nonetheless, wow, the conservative movement is rising up. And they don't care if they get Nazis and neo-Nazis and Klansmen in there, and they own the site. You know, I don't own X and all these other sites. They own that site, and they get revenue based on the number of people who have eyes on there. They don't care if these people wear robes, white robes. They don't care. And so this is why they do what they do. This is why Colby Hall, who runs the operation, is a gutless wonder, wouldn't come on this program. I wanted to have a discussion with him about the mission of this company. I wanted to have a discussion with him about a whole host of things. First he said yes, then he said no, I'm not going to be subjected to insults. Mr. Producer goes back and says, Mark says, none of that's going to happen. It's going to be very professional. Well, professional's in the eye of beholder. So he's a weasel. They hide behind their laptops, probably without pants. Probably they haven't showered for 7 days. Right? Probably eating pretzels and, you understand. They don't want to be questioned. I mean, I was going to be perfectly seriously polite because that site is very diabolical. It reminds me of Media Matters. And they're getting the clicks that they want, apparently. So if you're a neo-Nazi or a Klansman or whatever you are, you're welcome over there at Mediaite. Your comments are very much welcome. And as a matter of fact, we have a report here. I'll try and get it during the break. That in addition to all this, a lot of foreign governments are involved trying to influence decision-making. And guess what? They don't like Israel. Guess what? They like Iran. So when you go on the internet, there's a lot of good that comes out of it, but it's also a toilet bowl for human turds. It's also a toilet bowl. And it's been penetrated by a lot of foreign governments. There's a report out on this I think I saw online. I think I linked to it. Iran, China, Russia, all of our friends. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
President Trump is in Washington with a mandate from the American people to solve the border crisis, reverse the effects of Bidenflation, and restore American greatness. But since January 20, judges across our country have consistently been blocking President Trump's attempts to fulfill his mandate. The Heritage Foundation has been analyzing the situation, and they've been able to identify the legal issues with these judges' actions, as well as the solutions that can end this potential crisis. Now, to see the results of the Heritage's analysis for yourself, go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. There you'll gain exclusive access to the Heritage Foundation's guide to solving the problem of limiting President Trump's executive actions. Stopping these judges might be the only way to protect Americans and take back our nation. So go to heritage.org/Levin, that's heritage.org/Levin, and get your free copy today. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. I watch sometimes these various shows, the discussions. It's interesting. It's almost never discussed. The people of Israel. So for 2 weeks, the people of Israel are going to have ballistic missiles raining down on them because the Islamo-Nazi regime is targeting the citizens, Tel Aviv in particular, hospitals and other places. The sirens going off. The endless runs to bomb shelters and public garages and so forth and so on. Imagine being a mother or father trying to raise a little kid there. This is the whole country. Imagine. And I watch these people on TV, they go, that's 2 weeks, it's strategic, it's this or that. That never comes into the discussion. The quality of life, what's being done over there. It's not only survival, but it's the quality of life. It's a democracy. It's the only one. These missiles are flying in for the purpose of doing the most damage possible. Meantime, the restraint shown by the Israelis not hitting population centers, desperately trying to avoid them. There's no discussion about this. It's as if the lives of these people don't even matter to the media. When's the last time they discussed it at Mediaite or the Drudge Report or Politico or Axios? They never discuss it. Now, I'm making these comments. They're all listening in on this program. Are they going to mention what I'm saying here about that? And keep something in mind. The fifth-column isolationists, they don't give a damn about the Israelis' lives at all. Well, we support Israel, but there is no but. You don't even care about our lives. You don't even care about the fact that this regime killed hundreds of American soldiers, killed them. maimed thousands of American soldiers through their proxies and directly through IEDs. Never comes up in their discussion, ever. They've got 3 bumper stickers and that's it. Then they claim to be patriotic. They're not patriotic. They claim to represent America. Many of them are un-American. Their instincts are wrong. Their belief systems don't make sense. They're not MAGA. Make America Great Again. MAGA is against them. They're fake MAGA. They're not pro-Trump. They turned on him. They stabbed him in the back the first chance they got. First chance they got. And in 2 weeks, if Trump decides to send the bombers with the bunker busters, they'll attack him again. Not just an honest difference of opinion. He's complicit in war. Isn't that what Tarleton said? Something like that? He's doing the bidding of the Jews and Netanyahu. He's being played. Isn't that what another genius said? They have no respect for him. Again, this is my friend. This is somebody and my wife's friend, our family's friend. Man I admire. And the right decisions will be made. Many of them have been made. He's still playing them out. I have my own opinions. I voiced them. I have voiced them. No surprises here or there. There is no MAGA division when it comes to Iran. I told you that a week or two ago when I was responding to this reprobate Colby Hall's piece. Look at the divisions in MAGA. They want a division in MAGA, meaning they want to undermine Trump. There are no divisions in MAGA. MAGA, the vast majority of the Republican Party, the vast majority of conservatives, the vast majority of independents, even Democrats, back Donald Trump on this issue. They want that nuclear site gone. Should he decide to listen to the other side, then they won't back him on that issue. But ultimately, in my view, he's not going to. He's drawn the red line. He's drawn the red line. Let me help the Iranian Nazis that run that regime. It's 3 words. You can put it down. Put it in Farsi. We'll find an interpreter. We surrender unconditionally. That's it. You don't need 2 weeks to write that. You don't even need 2 minutes to write that. So where is it? Will it be forthcoming? I would like to know. Where is it? We shall see. And we're also going to keep an eye on, if there is a deal, exactly what is this deal. But we'll see. Things will play out as they play out. Next hour, we have our friend Zuhdi Jasser. He's a top reformer. Top reformer, creating a movement in the Muslim movement up against the Islamists, the fundamentalists, which is a very dangerous thing. He's a man of deep faith, but he also understands that other people have deep faith too, and they're allowed to do that. They're allowed to have that. They're allowed to exercise it. That's right. In the mindset of the Islamo-Nazi regime in Iran, we want to pursue that because clearly the low IQ mindset of the fifth-column isolationists have no idea. No idea. They just burp up their bumper stickers. We'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. by Adam Lois. Let's see, just bear with me. Bear with me. Many of your favorite anonymous MAGA accounts are run by foreigners with connections to Pakistan, Iran, China, Russia, and so forth. Points out warfare isn't just kinetic. The battlefield extends to information. The information. And there's some evidence and examples of what he's talking about. A lot of that is true. A lot of that is trolling. You can tell because a lot of it is repetitive and really quite grotesque. And so you have to believe that some of that is that. Then we have this. We have the audio, Mr. Producer, of Caroline Levitt talking about Iran has all it needs to achieve a nuclear weapon. Let's hit it. Cut 5, go.
When the president said a few weeks away, did he mean obtaining enough enriched uranium to start building a weapon, or did he mean Iran is a few weeks away from completing the production of a weapon?
I'm glad you asked that, Ouija. It's an important question, and it's one, frankly, the media has been getting wrong. Let's be very clear. Iran has all that it needs to achieve a nuclear weapon. All they need is a decision from the supreme leader to do that. And it would take a couple of weeks to complete the production of that weapon, which would, of course, pose an existential threat not just to Israel, but to the United States and to the entire world. And that is something that the entire world, including countries like Russia, is in agreement with, that Iran should not and cannot obtain a nuclear weapon. And that's why the president believes that, and he's believed that, again, not just his political career, but frankly, his entire life.
The only problem is Russia has provided them with ground-to-air missiles to prevent the only country so far that is actually targeting and trying to take out their nuclear sites, and that would be the little country of Israel. Let's be clear about that. Nobody else has lifted a finger so far. That's number one. Number two, I agree with her, and she's brilliant. And she's repeating basically what our intelligence services have told her, Radcliffe, the CIA. That is, all they need is a decision from the supreme leader. But that's an argument for taking out the supreme leader. He's in his 80s, he's dug in, and he's a mass murderer. It's also a reason why when they talk about a decision within 2 weeks, the sooner the decision is made, the better. I mean, again, if the position is that the so-called supreme leader all has to give the order, and they will have a nuclear weapon, achieve a nuclear weapon, quote unquote, in 2 weeks or so, then he's got to go, and the program's got to go. No, Mr. Perdue, am I missing something? I don't think so. And so what do the isolationists have to say about this? What's the fifth column have to say about this? Nothing. They go on the attack. They don't provide substance. They don't provide arguments. They fearmonger, and they're wrong all the time. They just are. That's why the American people really want nothing to do with them. That's why Donald Trump really wants nothing to do with them, quite frankly. That's why I certainly want nothing to do with them. They're a danger to my country, my family, our country, your family. That's the truth. So you heard it there from the spokeswoman for the President of the United States. You've heard it from the CIA director. Now, what did you hear from Tulsi Gabbard in March? I was the first one to point this contradiction out. The very first one. That what she said was not true. And she said it under oath. And she ought to be held to account. No, I don't mean thrown in prison and all that. She ought to make herself available so questions can be raised, at least by Republicans in the Senate. What were you talking about? What information were you looking at? When we have the White House officially telling us that all they need is a signal from the supreme Nazi, and in 2 weeks they have a nuclear weapon. And by the way, Politico, why did you lie with Katarlson? The Independent, why did you lie with Katarlson? Mediaite, why did you lie with Katarlson? Why did you all lie? Because you like it. The facts don't matter. Got to get those headlines in, the hyper headlines, so you can get all the neo-Nazis commenting, you get all your little hits. Cowards. That's who they are. All right. We have, let's see here. I want to pull up, bear with me, folks. I don't have a printer working here. I'm trying, Mr. Producer. Here we are. Perfect. Netanyahu with reporters today. These men like each other a lot, Netanyahu and Donald Trump. I happen to know that for a fact. They like each other a lot, despite the best efforts to try and come between them. Cut 2, go.
President Trump will do what's best for America. I trust his judgment. He's a tremendous friend, a tremendous world leader, a tremendous friend of Israel and the Jewish people. And we will do what we have to do, and we are doing it. We are committed to destroying the nuclear threat, the threat of a nuclear annihilation against Israel. We're able to do it. And we, of course, will make our own determination. But I have to say that the partnership with the United States, the partnership with President Trump, with whom I speak to almost every day, is incredible. I think his resolve, his determination, and his clarity when he says Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And for that to take place, Iran cannot enrich uranium. It's as simple as that. He gave them the chance to do it through negotiations. They strung him along. And you don't string along Donald Trump. He knows the game. And I think that we're both committed to making sure that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon, and they won't.
In your heart of hearts, is the United States going to come on board and help you with these strikes?
That's a decision for the president to make, but I can tell you that they're already helping a lot because they're participating in the protection of the skies over Israel and its cities with THAAD missile batteries that are in Israel, with Aegis ships that are on the shore of Israel, with their pilots that are fighting alongside our pilots to knock out drones. I think it's a remarkable cooperation.
So the idea that these two men are separated is so outrageous, and these leaks keep coming out to Axios and others. Because the people leaking it are this fifth-column isolationist crowd, the Charles Koch-heads, the Soros commies, the embeds, the isolationist embeds. That's who they are. Netanyahu further, at the hospital, which was a direct hit by the Iranians and their ballistic missile. We were having an intelligence site or a military site. Israelis say that's not accurate. They knew exactly what they were doing. Cut 3, go.
When you see this hospital, what can you tell people who see this kind of...
I think it says everything about Israel and about Iran. Israel is fighting to remove the nuclear and missile threat aimed at our annihilation. We're targeting military sites. We're targeting nuclear sites. We're targeting missile sites. They're targeting a hospital. In this hospital, there are patients who are immobile. They can't even move. Right next to it is a children's ward, a baby's ward, infants. They target it. They can give this nonsense that they're targeting military sites. What military sites? I know all the military sites in Israel. There isn't a military site here for miles and miles around. They're targeting civilians because they're a criminal regime. They're the arch terrorists of the world. They want to have nuclear terrorism, which will put the entire world under nuclear blackmail, and they would use these weapons. That's what the Ayatollah Khamenei says that he would do. He would use these weapons to wipe Israel off the map. Well, he's not going to. We're not going to let him. And we're in the process of achieving a tremendous victory. And our victory is aimed at those two goals. People ask me, are we targeting the downfall of the regime? That may be a result, but it's up to the Iranian people to rise for their freedom. Freedom is never cheap. It's never free. Freedom requires these subjugated people to rise up, and it's up to them. But we may create conditions that will help them do it. Our goal is twofold. Nuclear, ballistic missile, we're going to remove that. We are in the process of completing removing this threat.
Wow, what a radical. Trying to drag us into a war. You notice he's not trying to drag us into anything. He's making the point, we'll do it if we have to alone. Obviously, it would be better. I'm just commenting if we could help them a little bit with that one site. I mean, folks, the air is owned by the Israelis. There's essentially no, if not completely no, ground-to-air defense system. It's completely open. So I'm not even sure what the downside is. You know, they talk about all these missiles will be shot at our armed forces. If you listen to how these reprobates argue, it's going to be World War III. No. The Arab countries are going to join in. They haven't. Let's see, what else? All these missiles will be shot at our... Let me ask you something. If the head of Iran is taken out, in my view, if this remaining nuclear site and the others are crushed and destroyed, who's going to shoot what? What? Not unless they want to be blown to kingdom come too, by the Israelis, the United States, together or separately. How many missiles have come into Israel from Hezbollah since this went on? Not one. How many from Hamas? I think 2. How many from the Houthis? I think 1 or 2. You get my drift, Mr. Producer? You do that, you're going to be annihilated. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Pure Talk, my wireless company, a veteran-led company, believes every man and woman who has faithfully served this country deserves to proudly fly an American flag that was made in America. And listen to this. That's why Pure Talk is on a mission to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag ever, to 1,000 U.S. veterans in time for the patriotic holidays. Switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk today. Know that you're supporting a company that will be providing these high-quality flags made in America to deserving veterans. With plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data, you can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill, in many cases, in half. The average Pure Talk family saves over $1,000 a year. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch hassle-free in as little as 10 minutes. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to a wireless company that supports our veterans, that is patriotic, based right here in America. Switch to Pure Talk. Well, it's always a great pleasure and honor to have our friend Zuhdi Jasser with us, who's one of the leaders of the Muslim reform movement. He comes up against these jihadis and these radical Islamists and so forth and care. He's the anti-them. He's counter them. And he's a practicing faithful Muslim. Zuhdi, how are you, my friend?
Great. It's a great day to be an American, a human being, and just in awe at the service that Israel is doing to the world right now. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You've also served in the Navy, and correct?
Yes, served 11 years, was on a Navy scholarship through medical school, and among the duty stations was as the medical officer on the USS El Paso, was in Operation Restore Hope, where our troops were in Somalia. And to hear Ilhan Omar spew her lies, I can just remember being off the shore in Mogadishu and hearing her say that Iranians never heard an American. I'm sure she says the same thing, that Somalis never heard an American either, and we were being dragged through the streets, which we recall vividly.
Mm-hmm. I think we see these isolationists, these what I call the fifth-columnists. I won't drag you into my world, but do you think they actually understand what we're dealing with here? Because they spend more time attacking Netanyahu, the Israelis, and Jews than they do focusing on the enemy. I don't think it's out of ignorance. I think it's purposeful in many cases. But explain the mindset, again, we've done this before, but again, audiences come and go, of these terrorists that we're dealing with.
Yeah, the folks that want to minimize it, they ignore the obvious theology, the theology of the Iranian malacracy that, ships out Hezbollah. Hezbollah founded suicide bombing, so they believe ultimately their life is not theirs. Theirs is to die and kill others with them. They don't believe in rules of war. They believe in ultimately creating chaos and killing innocents. Non-combatants is who their targets are. And the Houthis do the same thing. They target non-combatants. The IRGC, which the Trump administration appropriately labeled one of the first state militaries to be labeled a terror organization because they believe in creating chaos. So when the leader, the president of Iran, goes to the General Assembly of the UN and calls for the coming of the 12th Imam before he even starts his speech, if you read the simple theology, the stories of their belief as they pray and they hold their hands open for God, they're calling for the end of times. The 12th Imam comes when the world is ablaze and we're all in Armageddon and dying. So why would these people, this regime, not the Iranian people, this regime, this theocracy, be working on enriching uranium, which has no other purpose other than creating a nuclear weapon? Why would they be doing that? And I don't understand the folks that want to minimize that, because they're not creating uranium, they're not enriching uranium at Fordow and elsewhere because they want to somehow use it peacefully. They obviously want to use it malignantly. They want to protect their country the way North Korea protects themselves from outside interference so that they can continue to destroy Muslims and others, and they want to do it regionally and globally. So it's pretty clear. It's not that complex.
Mm-hmm. No, but these are ideologues that we're dealing with in our country and in Europe as well. And all they do is they run around and say, no wars, no forever wars, you're a warmonger. And the reason you're so important is because you've studied this, you've lived it, you know this, you understand it, you understand other languages, and you're saying, hold on now, you don't understand what you're dealing with here. They want an atomic... Let me put it this way. Let me ask you the question. Would they use a nuclear weapon, Zuhdi Jasser?
Absolutely. Individual suicide from Hezbollah and Houthis becomes national fratricide for an 86-year-old geriatric Khomeinist who believes that he was somehow decided to determine the fate of his entire cult and take the Iranian people with him, no different than Jim Jones did. So this is the same type of belief with 90 million people under him, and Israel is doing the world a service because we cannot live in a world that the Iranian malocracy has nuclear weapons, because they will use it at the moment. And by the way, it won't need external reasons for them to use it. If they're on their heels and their people are beginning to revolt, which we're seeing them happening incrementally, they will ultimately create nuclear conflict regionally in order to divert attention of their own people from the liberation that they're trying to do through the revolutions from 09, 17, 20, and on.
You've been on this program in recent months, 2 or 3 times. You've been on my TV show, I think, 2 times in a couple of months. Has anybody at Mediaite ever reached out to you to discuss your factual basis for making these claims?
No, they haven't. And, it's interesting. It's almost as if they want to steer away from the reality and that this is somehow either an identity point. It's insane that the identity politics still are part of it, is that, they can't sell me about the fact that, well, it's not a threat, that they've been saying 6 months for decades. And no, they haven't. And the acceleration is because right now they're cornered. We have a president, thank God, who has for decades said that they cannot have a nuclear weapon. And I guess they don't want to hear it from a Muslim either.
I want to keep you over the break, but very quickly, has anybody from Politico reached out to you?
No, they haven't.
Has anybody from Axios reached out to you?
Not at all.
Has anybody from The Independent reached out to you?
No, sir.
Has anybody from the Daily Beast reached out to you?
Not at all.
Basically, nobody's reaching out to you, and yet you're a font of information, aren't you? Have any of these isolationists with these podcasts, have any of them reached out to you?
No, they haven't. I'd be happy to talk to them.
Yeah, well, they're not happy to talk with you because they're propagandists. We'll be right back with Zuhdi Jasser. Pure Talk, my wireless company, a veteran-led company, believes every man and woman who has faithfully served this country deserves to proudly fly an American flag that was made in America. And listen to this. That's why Pure Talk is on a mission to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag ever, to 1,000 U.S. veterans in time for the patriotic holidays. Switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk today. Know that you're supporting a company that will be providing these high-quality flags made in America to deserving veterans, with plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data. you can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill, in many cases, in half. The average Pure Talk family saves over $1,000 a year. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch hassle-free in as little as 10 minutes. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to a wireless company that supports our veterans, that is patriotic, based right here in America. Switch to Pure Talk.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Zuhdi Jasser, I want to go through this again just to underscore points. So, up to 2 weeks more in negotiations on an unconditional surrender. Now, from the mindset of the Islamists, the Iranians, they can lie and deceive as a matter of compulsion from faith if it means advancing their extremist terrorist agenda. And they have a word for this, don't they?
They certainly do. And basically it's taqiyya. And what it means is that anything goes, just like with terrorism, targeting innocents and targeting non-combatants with human discussions and interchanges. They can basically lie and deceive and dissimulate in order that, because the ends justifies the means. They're supremacists. The people they have across the table from them are not human. They're lesser. They consider them to be subhuman. So ultimately anything goes. And this is why we need reform. Certainly it's their interpretation of Islam. I raise my kids in a way that we say the exact same thing at our dinner table that we do on your program or that I do anywhere. And I hold my kids and my family accountable to that. So that's the reform that needs to happen. And if people don't believe me about Islam, Western democracy didn't come bloodlessly. You had 10, 15 million people dying in the 30 Years' War, which was about religion, which was about reform that was necessary. So Western history took 1,789 years until you had a document that actually rendered unto Caesar what is Caesar and unto God's what is God. And that's going to take some time, and God bless Israel for protecting Muslims and humanity from the theocracy and giving them basically a locked-in firewall against any reform or change within and accountability by getting that nuclear weapon. And Israel should make sure, and that's what it's doing, that another Holocaust does not happen, because it is the death to America, the little Satan versus the great Satan. It's not only about Israel. We have hundreds of thousands of Jewish Americans and others that are in Israel. Those are citizens. So I don't understand how they say this isn't our conflict. It certainly is, and we're being threatened directly.
And Israel's fighting for the world, not just for Jews, as you point out, for freedom. They're fighting for Muslims who want to be freed from this regime. They're fighting for Arab states that are too cowardice to come out and support Israel, but they want this regime taken out too. And 80% of the American people want these nukes destroyed. They want these nukes destroyed. And so I don't really know what the controversy is other than the speculation and the fear-mongering. This is not Iraq. It's not Afghanistan. As Guy Benson has pointed out beautifully in his piece, these are targeted hits that Trump is known for, whether it's Soleimani, whether it's the bombings in Syria, that sort of thing. And Zuhdi, the skies are clear. We sent a bomb. Look, you were in the Navy, but we sent a bomber where they have literally no ability to shoot it down, nothing to shoot at it. They have no jets to fly at it. It's open skies. And the Israelis did that. And so if now is not the time, there's never going to be a time, is there?
Exactly. We're sitting in a moment in history that our children's children will look back and say, this was a tipping point towards good in the planet, not towards evil, towards good. And ultimately, that's why I don't even like the term regime change, because we're not putting in another regime. This is destruction of an evil regime that will allow, just like in Syria, they tried a decade to defeat their dictator, and they couldn't. Finally, when Israel was threatened, they did what it needed to protect themselves, but that was what broke the back so that the deep state and Assad's regime no longer existed. And right now, if a side benefit of Israel protecting itself is that regime is unable to pay its leadership, is starting to see huge defections, is starting to see people across the country not only march against but freeze their economy, and the regime dies, and you will see ultimately a future liberation. Now, will there be some chaos? Sure, but that is still far preferable for humanity than a fratricidal regime that would want to destroy the Middle East in its tribal millennial battles that it's had since the 11th century.
You make an important point. What could possibly replace this regime that would be worse?
Nothing. I can tell you that a lot of us, I have a Clarity Coalition. I would ask people to go to claritycoalition.org. It stands for Champions for Liberty Against the Reality of Islamist Tyranny. There are Muslims, Jews, Christians, Hindus, people of no faith, just believe in God, don't believe in God, that came together, that are dissidents from Iran, across the world, from Europe and Canada and the U.S. We all almost unanimously agree that this is a gift to humanity that's happening, and we're bipartisan. There are Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals. The narrative that this is somehow a narrow conservative idea to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon is beyond ignorance. It's just complete propaganda.
What do you say to people who say, actually, the Israelis are dragging us into a war? See, your voice and the voices of the people you see and speak with, which is enormous, it's never heard. You don't get a platform if I don't put you on. You're not heard by the so-called new media. You're not heard by most cable channels. You're certainly not heard by networks. I don't think you're heard by the administration, your voice, their voices. And there's many, many of you, isn't there?
Exactly. There are millions of us that believe in the American form of government, Western form of free speech, of liberty, of separation of mosque and state. But we're not platformed because the CCP and the Qataris are funding billions upon billions of radicalizing youth, not only Muslims, but leftists and this red-green axis. And ultimately, the future of humanity depends on recognizing that we can no longer live a lie that somehow we're not at war. Iran tells us every day, the Khomeinis, that we are at war. They want to kill us. They want death to America, death to Israel. That is a war stance, a war footing that they've had. They're attacking Americans, contrary to the Islamist agent Ilhan Omar's words on Congress. They're attacking us on our ships from the Houthis. They attacked Israel on October 7th through Hamas and its funding by Iran. They're attacking us through spies. Our dissidents, Masih Anijad, was targeted for assassination. She's one of our co-coalitionists and liberal Muslim thinkers. She was targeted in New York for assassination, and she's one of thousands that are targeted on our soil because Iran wants to insulate themselves from reform and modernity.
I'm just concerned that some of these people who are lobbying the White House and out there with their little followers and everything, the information that you're providing is very, very important to all the American people. It's very important that people understand the mindset. This is not a Western mindset. It's not even a Marxist mindset. It's not even a fascist mindset. It is, as you call it, a death cult. And so they will negotiate anything, which they've done. They will sign anything, which they've done, and they have absolutely no intention of complying with it. And that, they believe, as you've pointed out, Zuhdi Jasser, and I have in my book as well, that they believe is it's required of them, right?
Absolutely. They see it as a mandate. They see themselves, and this is the beauty of the American system, of our Western legal system. The theocrats see themselves as God. They see their representation in government as being God. They don't see themselves as regular human beings. So anything goes. And listen, I'm a doctor, and I love humanity. I take care of my patients, and that's the most important thing. I don't want to see fighting or war. But at the end of the day, you want the least killing possible. And preemptive strikes are far more ethical and far more moral than allowing some massive conflagration that could have obviously been prevented. That's why we take defense courses. That's why we have a Department of Defense, because you ultimately, to prevent war, sometimes that's the most peaceful method, is to prevent bullies, global death cultish bullies, from being able to get a nuclear weapon and threaten us. And I wish my friend Bernard Lewis was still alive. He wrote one of the greatest books, The Jews of Islam, and talks about the flourishing of Jewish thought at one time in Islam when there used to be thousands of schools of Islamic thought, and now there's basically 3 across the planet, and that's it. And this is a new and could be the beginning, the first step in, could be some chaos, but ultimately the first step towards modernity, which is making sure theocrats like the Iranian regime do not have the means to lock their population in with a nuclear weapon.
Your point's a good one. We're not talking about establishing a democracy, democracy or no democracy. The point is eliminating this hell. You eliminate this hell, there's many opportunities that open up. I hear people with very limited knowledge of history, and basically they look at recent experience again with Afghanistan and Iraq. Everything's not Afghanistan and Iraq. And the Persian people in particular, the Persian people are not used to this kind of theocracy. That's not what they're used to. These people, for the most part, they were capitalists. For the most part, they were professionals or well-educated, even if they didn't go to colleges and so forth. They weren't third worlders, were they?
They weren't. And listen, the evolution needs to be, you need to be given their space. There were many mistakes in Iraq and Afghanistan, and certainly it is not our role to build nations. They should build themselves. And many of us have learned many lessons of what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, but it's very different. Syria, there's no doubt. I've got family there. There's no doubt they have a jihadi regime, jihadis in suits running their country right now. But they're going through the same evolution. Iran had a royal family, had a Shah. They went away from that monarchy to saying, let's try Islamism. And now after 50 years, 46 years of that, they're realizing they will never go back to that or their monarchy. And that's part of the normal. The West went through the same evolution through monarchies and then theocracy and then now obviously liberal democracies. And this is the same type of evolution that as long as they stay with their own internal threats, their populations can deal with it and will go through multiple revolutions. But when they have external threats, we have a duty as Israel not only to protect itself, but the world benefits from making sure that bullies, global bullies, don't have nuclear weapons to take us all with them.
We're going to be reaching out to you again to come on Sunday, so I'm hoping you can make yourself available on Life, Liberty, and Levin. It's very, very important, particularly now. People keep talking about diplomacy and negotiation. I'm not talking about the president. I'm talking about all these other people who keep pressing for it and pressing for it and pressing for it. They're on TV. They're on radio. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know what the hell we're up against. And then they just keep throwing out bromides like, well, what about Iraq? And what about Afghanistan? And forever was. And I'm going, my God, how stupid are these people? All right, Zuhdi Jasser, thank you, brother. You take care of yourself.
Will do. Bless you. Thanks, Mark.
Bless you, too. God bless you. What a fantastic and courageous man, Mr. Producer. And he's needed more now than ever. He's needed more now than ever. Because everybody needs to understand how this process works. So when you hear... these, no more wars, let's negotiate, what's wrong with the deal? Now you understand. It is a problem. I think in the end, I could be wrong, okay, so let's put that marker up there. There's not going to be a deal because the Islamist Nazis, even though they're diabolical and so forth, I don't think they're going to want to sign a deal because Trump's too tough. For them, not for us. He's too tough. I think he's wise to them. He's wise to them. He's saying, look, surrender. No, he's saying unconditional surrender, a phrase we've used here many times, right, Rich? Unconditional surrender. And so we'll see. We'll see. I'm looking, Rich. Rich is saying, come on, Mark. There we go. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Pure Talk, my wireless company, a veteran-led company, believes every man and woman who has faithfully served this country deserves to proudly fly an American flag that was made in America. And listen to this. That's why Pure Talk is on a mission to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag ever, to 1,000 U.S. veterans in time for the patriotic holidays. Switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk today. Know that you're supporting a company that will be providing these high-quality flags made in America to deserving veterans. With plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data. you can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill, in many cases, in half. The average Pure Talk family saves over $1,000 a year. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch hassle-free in as little as 10 minutes. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to a wireless company that supports our veterans, that is patriotic, based right here in America. Switch to Pure Talk. Okay. I look forward to the day when we don't have to spend so much time on this topic. We will spend time on other topics as well, of course. But, this is front and center. And to be getting into other things that are not as relevant would be kind of foolish, I think. I told you I'm a quasi-professional. We got about 45 seconds. That discussion I had with Zuhdi Jasser, and I dig into it even more, is in my new book on power. And you can grab your copy now. It's less than $24. You can pre-order the copy on Amazon.com. I want to encourage you to grab it. I know you're going to enjoy it. The early non-official copies have been going out to individuals, 3 of whom received it. And you should see the emails they sent me. They said, we've never read anything like this. This is unbelievably brilliant and readable. Readable. Grab your copy. I'll be back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Have you ever heard of Sayyid Qutb? Qutb. Of course you haven't. He's one of the most prominent thought leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood and political Islam. Now, he's dead, of course. But he wrote a book in 1965, which is, may I say, like their Holy Bible. He lived for a period of time, by the way, in the United States. He was disgusted by the freedom. He was disgusted by the free will. He was disgusted by the prosperity and the plentiful shelves and all the rest. Actually, his book was written in 1964. It's called Milestones. Milestones. And this is what so many people who are decision makers just don't comprehend. Here's what he wrote, and this is on page 51 of my new book on power. Qutb often mentions, which I was discussing with Zuhdi, Jahiyya, which he defines as the state of ignorance of the guidance of God. What is extremely significant about this is that in Qutb's view, the entire Western world was riddled with Jahiyya. At the same time, he considered most Muslims of his time to be suffering from such ignorance due to what he considered by watering down through the ages of pure Islam. And mostly because of Western influences, by the way. And he said this must no longer exist. And so the West has to go. Things like democracy have to go. Capitalism have to go. It all has to go. He saw it as his mission to revive this pure Islam. It's a phrase that Zuhdi's made famous, with its very strict interpretation of Sharia law and to never give an inch in terms of adopting or compromising with Western values, which he considered devoted to materialism, violence, and racism. You can see why there's a fusion. You can see why there's a fusion between Marxism and Islamism. And Jasser notes our foremost objective is to change the practices of this society. That is his. So the constant bloody wars among different Muslim sects, including in Syria, Yemen, Lebanon, and elsewhere, the targeting of the West by a long list of Islamist organizations, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, al-Qaida, so forth, and Islamist states that support terrorism like Iran and Qatar. They provide evidence, ample evidence, of the bloody Islamist impact both within individual countries and throughout the world on Muslims and non-Muslims alike. So this jihad, I guarantee you there's not a single person, isolationist, any of these people, who know what the hell I'm talking about. And Western societies and governments do not seem to comprehend or wish to deceive themselves into ignoring, rationalizing, or excusing the dire peril Islamism presents, despite multiple acts of terrorism committed against them and threats of more, this is my book again, worse to come. In some cases, Western governments hope to avoid the consequences of Islamist ideology through appeasement, negotiation, or financial arrangements. This is very important. As of this writing, Iran, an Islamist dictatorship, so I finished this book, 2 months ago? 2.5 months ago? So let's see how close I was. Ready? As of this writing, Iran, an Islamist dictatorship that has spread terrorism and murder throughout the Middle East and beyond, repeatedly demands the annihilation of the United States and the Jewish state of Israel, and has fired hundreds of missiles into Israel, has attempted to assassinate the President of the United States, has killed and maimed American soldiers and citizens, and has made alliance with the Communist Chinese government, is hell-bent on completing the development of nuclear weapons and intercontinental ballistic missiles and their delivery systems. Despite multiple agreements with the West and assurances that it has no intent on building nuclear weapons, the Islamist regime is about to have what is called a nuclear breakout, that is, nuclear weapons. Iran has lied, cheated, and deceived multiple American administrations, international organizations, European countries, etc., on its path to a nuclear breakout. Yet the United States and the West still hope to reach another deal to prevent Iran from crossing the finish line, and Iran will oblige them at some point. As long as the Islamist regime survives, so too will its nuclear ambitions, despite any paper agreement or short respite. That's pretty prescient, don't you think, Mr. Producer? That's in my new book on power. There's no clear example of the clash between negative and positive power. This book is on power. You're going to find, I know, look, we know each other. You're going to find it fascinating. That negative and positive power between a terrorist Islamist dictatorship and Western democracies, where the mindsets, principles, and goals could not be more different. Indeed, in addition to what has already been said, deception, or in Arabic, I don't have my glasses. Hold on here. Ready? Of course, my Arabic is very fluent. Taqiyya. Taqiyya. Taqiyya is believed to be legitimate, if not necessary strategy against non-Muslims. Now, what is this taqiyya? Raymond Ibrahim explains, according to shariahs, the body of legal rulings that defines how a Muslim should behave in all circumstances, deception is not only permitted in certain circumstances, but may be deemed obligatory in others. Obligatory deception. Now, we talked to our friend Zuhdi about the other word, the word jahiyya. And now we're talking about the word for deception. So deception is the name of the game. Deceit, lying, where we would think it's immoral, that is part of the faith belief system if the goal is to preserve the faith. In this case, a terrorist regime. That's why they keep lying and all the rest of it. Now, by the time you're done reading this book, you're going to know more about this than anybody else. Anybody. And this is one of the reasons I'm so excited about it. This is just one little piece of the book. You're going to know more about Alexander Hamilton than anybody. I've taken a different view of him after a tremendous amount of research on this man. I don't think you're going to like him as much as you like Jefferson and Madison and Franklin and these guys. And you'll see why. It has nothing to do with personal life. It has to do with his viewpoint and how he approached things. You've seen this famous play or heard about it, Hamilton, right? All the liberals and Democrats love this play. I don't even know if it's still playing, but it was playing for the longest time. And they all would fight over tickets, get the best seats. It's the real happening. And so there's a reason for that. I'm not saying Hamilton is like a Bernie Sanders type, but Jefferson and Madison, Jefferson, the first author of the Declaration, Madison, considered the father of the Constitution, they despised Hamilton. Even though Madison, Hamilton, and John Jay, but mostly Hamilton and Madison, wrote the Federalist Papers and argued for the Constitution. And this is what drove Madison crazy about Hamilton. He advocates for a Constitution, and then later he advocates for centralized power and a reinterpretation of phrases. I just told you something you don't know, but you're going to know a hell of a lot more when you're done with this book. A hell of a lot more. You're going to learn more about Marxism and why that matters in this country, since basically Marxism is the fallback ideology, Americanized Marxism, for the left and the Democrats. We're going to explore further, you'll take the journey with me, on this fusion that I talk about between Marxism and Islamism. We're going to talk about the Declaration. Where does this thing come from? Really, let's get to the root of the matter. We have some people, friends, who say, hey, look, the founding principles are right out of the Bible, the Torah in specific. They're right about that. But I have a little quibble. That's where they're found. But also, what do the founders cite? The Enlightenment. They cite Locke. They cite Montesquieu. They cite others. And so I explain there, it's a fusion between faith and the Enlightenment. The problem with Islam is it's a fusion between faith and coercion and tyranny. I talk about the book, Authoritarian Democracy, a phrase I think I invented. I certainly didn't take it from anybody else, just seemed like the right phrase, authoritarian democracy, which is what the Democrat Party promotes. More authoritarian than democracy. Remember, we're a constitutional republic. They promote authoritarian democracy. We get into that in the book, and I think you're going to find that fascinating. And what is this negative power and this positive power? What is this soft negative power? What do these things mean? These are terms that I've developed and coined for application to make the discussion of power easier. Why do I give a damn about power? Maybe you don't, but you're living in the middle of it. With your family, with work, there's no avoiding it. You may not notice it, but if you start to think about it, you'll notice that it's everywhere. But I don't write books about psychology and psychiatry because I'm not either of those. This book applies in the context of community, society, government. And the determination of power determines whether you're free or enslaved or some combination of both. And so we get into this, I get into this deeply, and I'm very excited about it. And I hope you'll pre-order your copy over there at Amazon.com. Many of you probably feel, well, I'm going to, but I'm waiting. I wouldn't wait. I'd get in line. I'd go ahead and get it. Get the discount. The discount will grow over time. Here's why I keep urging you to do this now. The more people pre-order, the greater the discount. That's the secret with Amazon. So we're at 11% discount. If just 4, 5, 6, 7,000 of you pre-order the book today, that discount will increase significantly. and it will apply to the book that you're pre-ordering and the book that everybody else has pre-ordered. And that's the way it works right up to the point of release on July 29th. So if thousands of people in this audience were to go ahead and pre-order the book on Amazon, if you're going to get the book, the sooner you do it, the better, because the accumulation of sales increases the discount. Am I making it clear, Mr. Producer? I hope so. That's what we've done over the years, and that's what I want to accomplish this year. So the first thing I've done is I had the publisher make sure the book was priced right. Now what I'm saying is, if you focus on Amazon sales and you do it now, you and all the other patriots in this audience will be able to bring the discount down significantly more, lowering the price for you and each other. It's a great idea. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Ah, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Patrick Leahy has a fantastic group of local newspapers, especially in Tennessee. He's breaking a story here. New York law firm representative Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Remember that guy? Remember him? Trafficking in human beings? Oh, no. He's a man from Maryland. Remember that? Wife abuse on multiple occasions? Oh, yeah. Member of MS-13? Remember the Democrats? He received $7 million from Reid Hoffman. Remember this left-wing a-hole billionaire? His nonprofit. The same guy who funded E. Jean Carroll. Remember those lawsuits she brought against Donald Trump? Remember that? This guy, Reid Hoffman. He's like a mini George Soros. What a pig. That's right, pal. You're a pig. That's right, and I say that with all due respect. So his firm that funded Carroll case against 47 is funding the Abrego defense case. Isn't that sick? Yeah, he's a sick bastard. I'm sorry, I don't like using that word sick, but nonetheless, from time to time I have to use it. And I would certainly use it against him. Let's see here, Mr. Producer. Do we have any callers? We do. I just need to get to my email here. Got these little hiccups, folks. I apologize. It's nothing to do with technology. Well, yes, it does. I can't get the printer work. What do you mean, Mark? Okay, here we are. Elon, Pearl River, New York. How are you, sir?
Hey, what's going on?
Let me look. Nothing.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
What's going on? I just had a quick question. Question.
What's up? What's going on?
Tucker Carlson.
I'm sorry. You mean Chatsworth Carlson?
No, just like Tucker Carlson. He's going up all
right, let's get rid of this guy. I don't even know what he's going to say. I don't want to spend shows talking about Tucker Carlson. He wanted to talk about Israel. Did he not, Mr. Producer? You get by us, I'm going to just slap you down. That's it. And you know why I'm not going to do that? Because while I will continue to do it, I don't think callers should participate in that. I really don't. He attacked me, so I'm dealing with him. Maybe one day I'll let the floodgates open. He should know that the vast majority of the listeners and callers to this program hate his guts. And he's not the only one they can't stand. But I'm not going to bring up the other names. Not yet. Vito, Hermoso, Florida, WXJB. How are you?
I'm doing good, Mark. How are you?
I'm all right. Thank you.
All right, Mark. Hey, thanks for taking my call. And
yes,
hey,
sir.
Mark, congratulations on your book about power. And I hope it gets to my little town of Homosassa because, well, I really want to look. I'm a Neanderthal, so I don't have computers or TV.
Right,
so
right.
all I have is radio and your telephone. But
yes,
I'm very interested in it because you've been speaking about it for a while. But
I wish I had one to send you. I don't have them. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I know you don't. I get it. I know they're coming soon to a theater near us. But, Mark, I want to talk to you.
I'm going to have to hold you over, and we're going to have to get to the point. Don't hang up just because I have this break. We'll be right back.
They can clone the others, but there's only one Mark Levin, and you can call him at 877-381-3811.
Hey, it's really good to be with you. Yes. South Philadelphia, Mr. Producer. How yous doing? Okay. Let's take a callers. Let me see here. Good idea. Back to Vito in Florida. Vito, go right ahead. Sorry.
Hey, Mark. No, that's all right. Mark, I was a little worried. Our president that we love and share with, he has this new 2-week delay here. I'm kind of concerned about the GOP division there. In this 2-week delay, I'm a little worried about that gives Iran too much chance to, if they're able to produce something, does it give them 2 more weeks to stay in the mountain and build?
Vito, you make a great point. I'm not a fan of this for several reasons. Number one, they're going to keep shooting missiles into Israel, into their hospitals. They're targeting these population centers, unlike the Israelis are trying to go after military centers and nuclear sites. So those people are going to suffer over there, and nobody seems to give a damn on TV and Mediaite, on radio. They talk about it as if it's a baseball game. Well, what'll happen here and what'll happen later? I mean, this is real life for these people. Number two, they've been under siege by Iran and its proxies now for almost 2 years straight. That has an effect on a society and a people, a very negative effect. And number three, those people don't want to just exist. They want to enjoy their lives. And so this Iranian regime is a 7th century primitive, barbaric regime trying to get its hands on 21st century weaponry. We had Zuhdi Jasser who explained it well. My book does too, which is people don't understand the mindset. They don't want nuclear weapons to threaten us. They want nuclear weapons to destroy us. This is what they say God compels them to do. This is what they say the Quran compels them to do. You have Zuhdi Jasser, who is a Muslim reformer. He's screaming at the top of his lungs, figuratively, and saying, hey, everybody, you better start paying attention to this. And so one of the things they do is what they're doing. Delay, distract, lie, cheat. And for them, God compels them to do that in order to advance their ideology. And so you're right on. I don't think they should get another minute. But look, the president is the president. I trust him. He has good judgment. And in the end, I think that's what's going to take place. He's under a lot of effort, but he's under a campaign by these fifth-column isolationists like Tarleson and his ilk to basically do nothing. And now you have them complaining that Israel's dragging us into a war. May I ask you something, Vito? Who is fighting this war primarily? Isn't it the Israelis?
Well, the Israelis, okay, see, the problem is the Israelis are the chosen people, and nobody can respect or understand that. And bless you for being Jewish, Mark, because you are a gifted person, because you have that gift as well. You are one of the chosen people.
But I'm deeply hated by a lot of people for my faith, and this is coming out now. Deeply hated. I mean, I'm shocked. And you should see the comments, and you can see the media playing into this with their headlines because they want the clicks and everything else. It's really, it's stunning to me. I'm a red-blooded American. I've always been. I speak out about what I believe. If the Chinese attack Taiwan, wait until you hear me about that, and so forth and so on. Very consistent. I'm very principled. Because of my faith, because of my beliefs. And most Americans are, because of the Judeo-Christian belief system. And you're pointing to the Bible, and you're right. By the way, Vito, what do you see in the Bible? Don't you see forever wars, good versus evil, against the devil?
Okay, so right now, this is a possibility of being Ezekiel's war, but it is definitely not the end of wars. And I know you know, look, I have all the books, Mark, just like you have. Okay, so I do a lot of reading because I'm a Neanderthal. But so this is a possibility of the Ezekiel's war as far as the Persians coming. okay, which they are Babylon and the Persians, okay, which is the destruction of the Israelites, which is totally wrong, totally bogus. And look, I love every Jewish person. I believe in the Israelites, and everybody hates them because they are the gifted, blessed people of the world that have the only religion that is proven fact in the great books of ancient time, which I hold in my house.
I'll tell you what's interesting, Vito. The Babylonians couldn't destroy them. The Persians couldn't destroy them. I'm not even going to name them all. The Romans couldn't destroy them. I mean, horrific genocide. Hitler couldn't destroy them. And there they are in the Middle East fighting again, these terrorists, these Iranians. And to be honest with you, if Biden hadn't bridled them, and in some ways we bridle them now, you can't take out the leader and so forth, this would be over already. It would be over. They have defeated the Iranian military. Think about it. Despite all the rest of it, trying to get the nuke sites and so forth, they literally have defeated the Iranian military in 48 hours. 48 hours. And I think even President Trump is stunned by the genius of what they've done here. And what you're saying is that's because there's God's hand. And a lot of evangelical Christians believe in this too, because they understand what the Bible says about Judaism and about the Messiah and about God and so forth. Jews understand it too. Vito, you are a great caller. Make sure you call again. I really enjoyed that. Terrific. Let's keep going, shall we? Let's see. Let's go to Doc, Warminster, Pennsylvania. I know exactly where it is. I'm on the Mark Levin app. How are you?
Good, Mark. Thank you for taking my call. Yeah, we grew up less than 10 miles apart.
Isn't that amazing?
I'm right around your age, too. I'm 66. Spent a lot of time down around, Glenside area. And
Elkins Park, Glenside, yep.
Elkins Park. Yeah, my friend lived right next to Rizzo's Pizza on Glenside
Oh, my
Avenue,
God. It's not there anymore, but it was great. It was great.
Yes.
Look how you remember all this stuff. Cool, very cool.
Yeah. Trip down memory lane. But
at least we have our memories to take the trip. But anyway, go right ahead.
Yeah. Bear with me. I'm a retired carpenter. I'm not a smooth talking preppy.
Sound pretty good to me.
So
do you wear a bow tie?
No, I would never wear bow ties. I guess when I was a kid, maybe Mom put one on.
Exactly, one of those clip-ons.
Yes. I say for the sake of argument that Iran wasn't close to developing a nuke. Go back to October 7th, okay? And clearly Iran has their thumb on all this, everything that goes on in that area. That in itself is justification for Israel to wipe the crap out of this Iranian regime. And I really don't hear that emphasized, it don't seem like it seems to me like on October 8th, Israel should have been doing then what they're doing now. That was justification. And how about the three...
You're so right. You're so right. And that's why 80% of the American people agree with you and me and not the reprobates. And that includes 84% of Republicans. And then I see 90% of MAGA thinks that we ought to go in there and take these nuclear sites out if the Israelis can't.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's a bonus, to take out the nukes. But just justification.
You're right. Use the word I use myself. Yeah.
But and how about the three soldiers we lost in that area back under Biden's regime?
You're right. Head injuries. Yeah.
Atonement for that.
They shot that into Iraq.
Pay for that?
No. Has anybody paid the price for 603 of our soldiers murdered by these bastards? Thousands of wounded. You see Tunnel for Towers, wounded warriors. The other. A lot of this in Afghanistan and Iraq was done by these bastards. Or how about the towers? The two embassies that were taken out. In Africa, people forget about that. These subhumans have American blood on their hands, and they've never paid a friggin' price for it. And it's the Israelis that are kicking their ass. It's the Israelis that destroyed Hezbollah. It's the Israelis that have stepped up. This tiny little country with a few million people. And I've got to sit here and listen, as Doc does, as Vito does, as Elon does. All of us sit here and listen to, well, should we bomb the nuclear site or not? When the skies are clear, because they've taken out all their defense systems from these damnable isolationist fifth columnists in our country. Do I have that about right, Doc?
Bingo. You nailed it, Mark. Has Tucker Carlson ever been, has he ever addressed that? Has he ever been asked
who the hell
about
knows?
that?
To be honest with you, I never paid attention to him until he decided to get in my face. And that was his mistake, and it will be the mistake of his for the next 20 years. I am a Doberman. I don't let go, and I'm not going to let go. And I now realize what a danger he and his cabal of isolationists, fifth columnists are. And he's not alone. He's not alone. Doc, I want to thank you, brother. Great call. Warminster, Pennsylvania, right near where I grew up. And Doc was great. All you callers are great, actually. I have to take a little break. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
In this audience, this vast audience, every corner of the country and many corners of the world, this audience despises Chatworth Catarlson. Have you noticed, Mr. Producer? We have to keep the callers off the air who want to talk about him. They such a tremendous honor. All righty. I'm pulling up the call screen. We've had a loaded board all night, haven't we? Yes, we have, Mark. Todd, Oakwood, Illinois, the great WLS. How are you, Todd?
Mark, it is an honor and a privilege to speak for you.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you, brother.
I am a U.S. Army combat medic, infantry man.
Wow. God bless you. Thank you.
Well, and now I'm a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So what scares me about our entire situation is we have got...
Sounds like you're in a car wash or something.
No, sorry. It's I'm in my garage.
Okay, put it right up to your mouth, the mouthpiece, and then we can hear you better.
Okay. We have got to take on Iran.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Israel's beating the crap out of them. I mean, seriously, we can't help with the skies cleared with one of our B-52s and one of our bunker busters. I mean, you heard Netanyahu, he says, we'll do it with our bare fingers if we have to. We're going to get it done one way or another. But it just seems so unreasonable that the great powers, not just the United States, are thinking about it, measuring it, and so forth and so on. And I do feel great about our commander-in-chief because I know he does the right thing and he will do the right thing, and he may have information we don't have. He said in less than 2 weeks. I am a little concerned about the fifth-column isolationists. We voted for Donald Trump. We didn't vote for the people around him. We voted for him. And that is a very important point to always remember. All right, Todd. By the way, thank you again for your service. God bless you, brother. Let's keep going, shall we? Marie, Central Oregon, the Mark Levin app. Go right ahead, please.
Hi, Mark. I am so honored to be a first-time caller. I listen to you all the time. And I've never been anti-Jewish or Israel, but you have opened my eyes to so much. And I am just so majorly, for Israel, and they definitely,
being for Israel is being for America, and being for America is being for Israel. I explain this all the time. The Judeo-Christian ethic, that's what founded our nation. That comes right out of the Holy Land, Judaism and Christianity. Was there a fast point you want to make? The music's coming.
I was listening for your book. I went and ordered it right then and there, and it's up to 30% off.
Whoa! 30% off, folks. Go grab it, Amazon.com. Marie, thank you. I told you, we do this together. It goes up the discount. We salute all you heroes out there. We'll be here tomorrow, too. Have a wonderful evening. God bless you.